Cam Robinson is the director of film scouting at Elite Prospects. He joins us weekly. How are you?
I am doing well, gentlemen. How are you guys doing?
Fantastic.
Good.
Cam, we wanted to get your 2 cents because you follow prospects from, prior to their draft year all the way through until the NHL and beyond. But either the Abbotsford Canucks will be cleaning out their lockers after today, and we will have the final game with a Canucks team on the ice in season 24-25, or they're off to the AHL final for the Western Conference final. So what we wanted to do on today's hit was look at some of the prospects on this team and get your take that if they hit their potential, what did they become in the National Hockey League? And it's a pretty long list because, as we've talked about, this is an Abbotsford team that has been very much been fueled by prospects and not just your AHL veterans. We'll start with the best one of them all, Jonathan Lekkerimaki, who's been the best skater in this series through 4 games with Colorado. We have seen him in the NHL a little bit, but Cam, what's your sense? If he hits the ceiling and becomes everything he can be in the NHL, what are we looking at?
Okay, I love that you gave me some homework for this. Let's get my thinking cap on. And I'm going to give you a little extra on top of it too. And this is going to shock some people because they know how I feel about player comparables. But I'm going to give some player comps as well.
Oh, wow.
On top of these, yes, for the people. I am for the people. So, Jonathan Lekkerimaki, like you said, we've seen him at the NHL. Canucks fans have tracked him now for so long. But he, a top 6 scoring winger, strong off puck instincts, a quick release, a deadly release, can score from out high. He's been able to attack the middle and get into some harder areas more frequently, which is obviously going to be great in his transition. Streaky, going to be a streaky guy. The very, very top end stylistically would be Kyle Connor. I think more realistically, let's think Oliver Bjorkstrand. A guy who's consistently able to score 20, 25 goals and then still has that 30-goal upside, maybe a 30-30 season, a 30-35 season sort of thing.
Let's stay with the U23 division before we move on to because there's some middle-aged prospects on the Vancouver Canucks, but the guys with the longer runway.
Yeah.
Aatu Raty still in the U23 division, as much as it might not feel like he belongs there because he's been sort of tip of the tongue in the National Hockey League for years and years and years. He's not 23 until the second month of the season, to be honest. We saw a big step taken in the final couple of weeks of the NHL regular season. Is it a stairway somewhere, though, for Aatu Raty?
Yeah, I think, and again, a player that everyone's been familiar with, like you said, feels like he's been around forever. But I think I'm going to be realistic with all these ceilings. A middle 6 center, balanced 2-way game. He has good size. He's good in the dot. He has a good release. He's built up his skating to an acceptable level now, that it is NHL level. He has the size and the physical tools that could really help him turn into a more well-rounded 2-way type of player that could fit into that third-line center role, I think. He competes hard. I think he has 20-goal upside, maybe even 20-25 sort of upside. And then a player comparable, let's think maybe Charlie Coyle, that type of player, fills into that middle of the lineup pretty well.
You like him in the middle then, Cam? Because I know for some, they're worried about the skating holding up in the NHL at center ice.
I think he's going to be most effective in the middle with his strength, his how good he is in the dot. He's played the middle of the ice for the majority of his career. I think that if you're going to pull the most out of him, it's in the middle of the ice. But if the skating is a question and he gets there and he can't keep up, then yes, he might have to slide to the wing.
We've talked about him a little bit in terms of how he mitigates the skating, and this is a little bit rare for a forward, but his first instinct is to be in good defensive position as opposed to pushing forward.
And he's got length too.
Absolutely. Maybe that hurts. Yeah, maybe that hurts the goals totals going forward. But of course, we'll endear him with coaches being on the right side.
And the face-offs prowess is there, obviously.
For sure.
Yeah,
as
for
well.
sure. Yeah.
Linus Karlsson.
Yeah, so another kind of versatile middle 6 type of forward. I've always appreciated his IQ. I think he has strong hockey IQ. He has a knack for finding scoring opportunities, right? He's not the quickest, he's not the biggest, but he understands how to maximize time and space and land in those soft spots well. Another one with a quick, heavy release. A player, this one gave me some troubles trying to find a player comp for him, but I ended up on Alex Killorn, similar sized, not the fleetest of foot, but knows how to find the back of the net and kind of get into those dirty areas.
Do you think there's an off chance he finds a roster spot next year? Again, he is part of that middle age group that I was talking about, already at 25 years of age.
Yeah.
I mean, it's sort of now or never for him. But that ability, if the Canucks are winger shy, and want a guy that can't even slide to the middle if they need to, like, could he be a net front presence scorer for the Vancouver Canucks next season?
Well, that's where you're going to catch me up on, as I was going to say, is that I think he could find a roster spot. It just might not be in Vancouver at his age and, excuse me, with waiver ineligibility coming up. Is that, if the Canucks were more of a rebuilding team, I think it would increase his chances. And so maybe some teams like that look at plucking him off waivers. But I think there is a world. He has taken nice steps. But as you said, he's almost geriatric now as far as prospects go.
Max Sasson.
Yeah, Sasson, a dependable guy, two-way center. He has the potential, the ceiling to like anchor a bottom line, maybe a third line at the very top end sort of thing. He's got a really good motor, defensively responsible. He has enough offense to contribute in spurts and not be a drag on them. And then a familiar comparable is like Teddy Bluger. He's kind of like Teddy Bluger in that regard.
25 in training camp, by the way.
Another old one. Yeah.
This is the last, to group the two of them together, this is the last look, probably, right, for Sasson and Linus Karlsson as Vancouver Canucks. Like, it's this year or never, right?
Yeah, pretty much. And, you can expect them to, if they don't make the team, is loads of guys end up on waivers at that time of year. So they maybe get back down to Abbotsford, and maybe they get back up to the Canucks at some point during the year, and then, up and down sort of thing. But yes, absolutely. This is kind of their last chance to really crack the roster in a full-time role.
Ty Mueller, at one point, he led the Abbotsford Canucks in minutes played during this postseason. What are we looking at with Ty Mueller?
And he's back in the U23 division.
Yes.
Yeah, just a baby, right? Yeah, no, Mueller, he's versatile. He can play kind of what you ask him to play. So a two-way center, but he can play the wing. Another one with good IQ, versatility and kind of a big brain for the ice. They go hand in hand. He plays at a fast pace. He's tenacious. He's adaptable, and then again, enough offense to play the game. And so a player that I look at as a comparable, kind of his ceiling would be like a Nick Bonino, another guy who's been around Vancouver a little bit.
One more forward rounds us out. That's our old buddy Danila Klimovich. Cam.
Oh,
Blake
Danila
is very interested, as you know.
Well,
Blake is Danila is one of the children of the price.
This one killed me again trying to find a player comp for him. But, obviously he's got some physicality. He's a hard shooter. He's a hard skater north-south. Not the greatest speed, but he does, barrel north-south pretty well. He's added a little bit of quickness to his game. He still has that penchant for violence that we noticed when he was a draft eligible. It'll come out every now and again still too. Highly streaky, has difficulties maintaining his focus for long stretches at times, can be frustrating in that regard. But he does have, he scored 25 goals this year in the AHL. A really difficult time finding a player comp for him, but I landed on Brett Connolly. So another guy who had, had a bit of a run and then ended up not having that super long of an NHL career, despite being, I believe, like a 6th overall pick.
Now, he's much younger than the middle-aged guys we talked about, but it sort of feels like he's on his last legs with this organization, too. Does he get one last look here this year and that's it?
I think his steps forward this year will buy him a little more leash. Yeah, I think so. If he went out and scored 11 goals or something like that, then that would be curtain sort of thing after this summer. But no, I think scoring 25 goals in not a full season either too that's probably breathed a little bit of new life into his projection here. But yes, the leash isn't overly long for him.
On the blue line,
he's still just 22. Won't be 23 till January.
Yeah. Although, like, Aatu Raty is only 2 months older than him. And it feels like one guy is way older than the other. Anyhow, on the blue line, there's reason to be very optimistic about a couple of bodies pulling down some NHL minutes next year. Let's talk about the most obvious one, and that's Victor Mancini, who is the belle of the ball right now in these playoffs.
Yeah, like the ultimate late bloomer, too, right? So he's physical. He's got the good size. He's on the right side. I think that he has... his offensive tools kit is continuing to be unwrapped. Is that, he was looked at as this, massive potential as a stopper. But when you watch his tape and when you watch him on a game-to-game basis, he can wow in transition. Like, he can do some end-to-end rushes. It's a little chaotic. It's a little unbridled enthusiasm at times, but it's there. So I think there's still a lot of refinement that needs to be had here. You could safely be like, he's going to be a third pairing guy. But I do still think he leverages his size to create advantages on both sides of the puck. Think like Mark Stahl or Justin Braun type, where it's like probably more going to be on the defensive side of things at the NHL, but will be able to do some things, move the puck effectively at times. So, he is the belle of the ball for a reason because of that size, and that he can skillful it up a little bit too.
Is he the right-sided version of Elias Pettersson?
Gosh, I feel like he has like a little bit more offense, but he's not as refined defensively, and the physicality that Pettersson brings to is at another level. But I mean, it's not terrible to consider that as a mirror.
He's finding that physicality by watching him in these playoffs. Like, he is throwing bodies around here a little bit.
He can. It's just Pettersson. It's like ingrained in him.
Yes.
Like, he wakes up in the morning, and before he has his cup of coffee, he hits.
He's already thrown two guys against the boards.
Violence.
Exactly, right.
He enjoys violence more than the next man. That much is clear. Kirill Kudryavtsev.
Yes, Kudryavtsev. I've been pumping this kid's tires up for years, right? Super cerebral, a two-way guy, really high-end hockey sense. So he has such an excellent gap control and great stick to break up plays. He makes smart, low-risk plays consistently. He's not the biggest guy. He's not the fastest guy, but he just, again, another one who maximizes his tools. Another one that I had a hard time trying to find a comparable for. I could say that all day. But Anton Strawman, an Anton Strawman, a little bit older there, but someone you can just rely upon and isn't going to wow you or really jump off the page. But those who know what they're looking for appreciate that type of game.
If he was 6'1", oh my goodness.
If
perfect, right? But still, does he pull down more than 20 NHL games next year?
It's a bit of a logjam, but I think he could with some help there with the other guys getting injured. But again, in another organization, like, I could see him being a full-time NHLer next season. Like, his development has been going up, trending upwards steadily, and I think it won't hurt him to play another year in the A. But he's pushing, he's knocking on the door for sure.
Archer Shilovs.
Artie. He has the size, 6'4". He's got strong lateral movement. He's shown that he can have ice water in the veins in big moments, right? Coming up for the Canucks, the World Championships. Can be streaky, though. I was tempted to use Jordan Binnington as a comparable there, but he's too nice. He's too lovely a man. Remember the pink shirt and all that? Like, it's just I can't do that to him. So I landed on Antti Raanta. Antti Raanta, kind of that one guy that, in a pinch, maybe he's a 1A for you in a 1A, 1B situation, but better served as probably a 1B or a backup.
I missed one forward. Arshdeep Baines, where are you on here? He's had a tough go here.
Where are you?
Where is Arshdeep Baines, I think, is the question here. Poor Arshdeep hasn't scored in the postseason yet. He has one secondary assist in his last 8 going into Game 5 on Monday, 11 games without a goal. But where are you on Arshdeep?
Tough time to go cold and quiet like that. But, he's a versatile winger. He, at times, and he definitely showed it at the junior level and has shown it at the AHL level, that he's able to score and set up plays with, kind of with a balanced spreadsheet on that one. Decent IQ. He's got good work ethic. He can complement more skilled players on his line. He's shown that throughout his career, which is nice if he turns into an NHL asset. Alex Iafallo at the very top end, but we're at the point now where it's like we're getting a little more closer to, it's unrealistic that he's going to even come close to that level.
Yeah.
And Cam, your colleagues over at McKeen's rated the Canucks prospect pool 14th best in the National Hockey League. Is that about right for you? And, of course, could improve, right, if they hold on to this 15th overall selection and make it.
Could improve, could be drastically reduced if they start just peeling off assets along with draft picks here this summer, as many expect them to do. Yeah, sure, middle of the pack sounds right to me without giving it too much thought of the overall scheme of the league there. We'll do our whole series of them towards the end of the summer and into September. But yeah, middle of the pack, and which isn't terrible. It'd be better if they were consistent playoff team, but that's kind of where you want to be if you're pushing into the playoffs. Is you want to be hanging in the pack and have guys that can push up, and of those guys we just talked about, how many of them could be potentially impact players? Maybe two. Maybe two of these guys. Which is
they are lucky to be where they are. I think, Cam, given where they have drafted, they've hit on late guys like Kudryavtsev should not be the quality of prospect that he is. Elias Pettersson should not be the quality of prospect that he is. I mean, they credit to the scouts for down the list coming up with some players, if not stars, but players, because they've traded away all these top picks.
Nope, absolutely right, and that's how you get your contract renewed, right? Even pro scouting, getting these guys out of the NCAA, and prioritizing a guy like Mancini,
Linus Karlsson,
trade, right? Linus Karlsson, right? You find bodies, you check the box for your job done, and then finding a guy like Elias Pettersson, it's you have to give credit to the scouts in those situations. It's not luck. It might be a little luck, but it's also hard work too, right?
The educated guesses, right?
Exactly, right? Yeah.
And also in summation here, Cam, listening as you went down the list here, with the exception of Lekkerimaki, I mean, Sasson, Karlsson, Aatu, Baines, maybe Baines, Mueller. I mean, it sounds like they should have the makings of a relatively cheap and effective and balanced bottom six forward group going forward.
Which is what they're going to need to do because they need to save the money for legitimate wingers, right?
And that is where the NHL is going even more than it was before with the rising cap, is that we're going to see the spread between the elite and the have-nots is going to grow exponentially. We're going to see someone offer Sam Bennett $10 million this offseason, right? And now everyone else is going to have to make their $950K to fill out the lineup, because just goes the cap's going up. It just means the rich, we're going to get richer, and that's those top end players, and talent will trump all.
Bottom six ELCs, right, for the win?
Yeah, bottom six CLCs and then reclamation projects where you can convince them to come for 2 years at $2 million total or something.
Right.
Cam Robinson of Elite Prospects for the win every week here on Sakaris and Price. Awesome exercise. Thanks, Cam.
Great, boys. Yep. Talk soon.